time I'll call to order the April 15, 2024 meeting of the Clearwater City Council. If you wish to address the council tonight at any time, please complete a comment card. Comment cards are located by the clerk seated to the right of the dais. When called to speak, please hand your card to the clerk. At this time, I'd like to ask all in attendance today to stand for the invocation to be given tonight by Father Bob Swick from the St. Francis of Assisi, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening. And let us pray. Almighty God, we come before you, Heavenly Father, asking that you bless these good and gracious leaders of our community. We pray you fill them with the true sense of compassion. Please, Lord, inspire them to guide in ways that inspire us to bond more closely, especially with random acts of kindness. As we go forward, Father, we pray that you make us all a channel of your peace. Where there's hatred, let us bring your love. When there's injury, your pardon, Lord. And when there's doubt, true love in you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father Swick.
You're welcome.
This time, please join me in Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I be allowed a moment to come by and say hello?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll try to wash myself. Lord knows I need all the help I can get. Congratulate you. This is called a challenge coin.
Yes.
And
Thank
it's
you.
you're being coined, if you will. Okay, and it's a tradition of the military that military organizations love their traditions, you know? And in doing so, they create coins that identify who they're with. And give you a special thank you. Thank you. And it's called challenge coin, though, because, you know, in my day and age, we used to go to the bar after duty hours were finished, right? And
Thank you.
and you sit at the bar. If anyone cares to slap a coin down, you better have a challenge coin. Otherwise, guess who pays the bar? So, I welcome you all.
Nice.
Good to see you, man.
Likewise. Thank you.
Congratulations. Here.
Father?
God bless you. Thank you all.
Thank you again, Father Swick. This time we'll move to item 4.1 on the agenda. And I'd like to call forward Ali Ismailowski.
Mayor, if I may, he is
Yeah.
actually stuck in traffic. Would it be
Okay.
possible to take the other presentation first?
Okay, I'll do that. We'll skip ahead then to item 4.2 on the agenda, Airport Advisory Board Annual Presentation.
Good evening, I'm Roger Schulman, the Chair of the Advisory Board. And as you've had changes on the commission, we've had some changes. Our chair left to pursue her education, and I found myself as chair at a rather interesting time. We currently have two other members on the board, John Renton and Thomas Crockett, who have a wide experience in the aviation field. Now, the air park is a 4,108-foot runway that's 71 feet above sea level, which makes it the only airport in the Pinellas County area that is above flood level, which gives us a mission if there is a hurricane or devastation in this area, that rescue operations and the Coast Guard would operate out of there. That is their mission. Now, the Clearwater Air Park has had a rather active year with the selection of Fly USA to be the fixed-base operator. We voted to recommend they take over the operation of the air park and are exceedingly pleased with the improvements they've already made and plan to make in the future with the construction of a new main terminal building and hangars to replace some of the deteriorating structures. They've addressed some community concerns, particularly the noise level from continuous operation of helicopters. They had a training mission there, and they have lowered that to one helicopter with much less operations over the neighborhood. That's cut down on a number of complaints. Another concern that was a particular concern of mine when I got on the board was the number of derelict airplanes that had no reasonable possibility of ever flying again and were deteriorating. Weeds were growing through them, they were corroded, they were falling apart, and in the worst cases, had mold covering them. Fly USA worked very successfully to contact the owners and get them off of the air park property one way or the other. So that eyesore has been totally eliminated, and there's no longer a boneyard for dead airplanes at the air park. And the facility is now well maintained, the grass areas are well groomed, security has been upgraded with the hiring of a veteran staff firm that provides alert and capable people to staff the area during overnight hours. They've also upgraded training and safety for fire crew members to industry-approved levels. They still have problems with the golf balls coming over from the adjacent city-owned golf course. That can cause a hazard to aircraft, and I learned on a trip across the runway to the west side fenced by the golf course, the balls actually attract birds who think they're eggs, and they try to crack them open with their beaks, which is kind of an interesting situation, which can also provide a hazard to air traffic. Of course, they do sweep the runway for foreign object situations frequently, but that has been a problem. In fact, as the airport staff cleans it up, they had at one point a full-sized garbage bin filled with thousands of balls that were collected over a fairly short period of time from that golf course. Another concern is the deteriorating fencing toward the back of the air park. That is something that is on the timetable to be repaired. Now, as you are aware, I believe that there was a deadly crash involving a plane that we believe was attempting to land at our air park, and the plane from the east coast of Florida unfortunately crashed into a mobile home at the Bayside Waters Mobile Home Park on US 19, claiming the life of the pilot and two women who unfortunately were in that home. Now, we don't know the cause of that crash, but the pilot did mention difficulty finding the Clearwater Air Park, although we are told that the runway lights, which are activated by a clicking of the microphone by the pilot who wishes to have them on during hours of darkness, we are told they were on for another aircraft. I don't have that as gospel. The NTSB is still investigating the crash. We may never know the exact cause of that crash, but we have discussed the fact that the air park does not have a rotating beacon. We held an emergency board meeting recently to discuss accelerating the construction of the rotating beacon to make the air park more visible to pilots during hours of darkness. It's not known if this would have helped in the fatal incident, but it would definitely be another way to let pilots know where the facility is located, particularly pilots who are not intimately familiar with Clearwater. The rotating beacon was already on the list of projects Fly USA had proposed, along with the hangar and terminal building construction. We had discussed exploring getting possibly a temporary rental beacon prior to a permanent installation, but in discussions with city staff and others found it would probably take as much time to get approval for a temporary unit as it would for the permanent device. Cost of a rotating beacon for visibility is not a major concern. It's between $80,000 and $110,000, basically the price of 2 Clearwater police cars fully equipped. But it does take a while to get approvals and an exact location, particularly with all the construction going on. In any case, the beacon is on the list of improvements and will happen, and that, in my opinion, is a top priority, as anything to enhance safety is an absolute in air operations. Community involvement, we still have the young eagles out there. There's a shortage of pilots in our military and a shortage of pilots in our airlines, and it's a very lucrative field right now, and we are encouraging young people to get involved by giving them free flights with the Young Eagles group, maybe get them the pilot bug while they're out there. And that's the conclusion of my presentation. Any questions?
Any questions from the council? Hearing none, thank you for coming to present tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll stand in for,
Yes.
Ali.
Okay. At this time, we'll go back to item 4.1, proclamation for Arbor Day. Whereas trees increase the beauty of communities, increase the value of properties, and enhance the economic vitality of businesses. And whereas trees reduce the erosion of precious topsoil by wind and water, help control heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas Arbor Day was started in 1872 as a special day to plant trees, as well as support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands throughout our nation, especially our urban areas. And whereas the city of Clearwater continues to encourage residents to plant, maintain, and protect trees, now therefore I, Bruce Rector, Mayor of the City of Clearwater, Florida, on behalf of the Clearwater City Council, do hereby proclaim April 27, 2024 to be Arbor Day in Clearwater.
I'll read Ali's speech if that's
Okay.
okay, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the Arbor Day proclamation. This proclamation, oops, sorry, that's not his speech. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the Arbor Day proclamation. This proclamation is part of being named Tree City USA, which I am proud to announce will be named. We will be named Tree City USA for the 42nd year. Please join us next Saturday, Saturday, April 27th at our Public Works Complex, located at 1650 North Arcturus Avenue, where we will be celebrating Arbor Day with our annual tree giveaway. We will be giving away over 2,000 Florida native trees for our Clearwater residents to plant, establish, and cherish with the contribution to enhancing our urban forest. We will have a variety of tree species ranging from canopy trees, live oaks, to accent trees, crepe myrtles, and many more. Just like previous years, we're expecting a large turnout of residents eager to get their trees and speak with our city arborist. Thank you again for proclaiming our city as Tree City USA.
And I think he's just arrived, so you want to say a word or two?
Impeccable time.
Well, as Marcus mentioned, everything, we are giving away over 2,000 Florida native species. I mean, you got the big canopies like live oaks, American sycamore, sweet gum, to the smaller ones like maples, crepe myrtles, Simpson stoppers, buttonwoods, and some persimmons. So please attend and, come get your trees. But like Marcus said, it will be very hectic, so try to get there a little early. And also, thank you for this proclamation for the Arbor Day and keeping us in good standings with the Arbor Day Foundation. Thank you.
I think I speak for all of the council. Trees are so important to our community. We have a lot of great neighborhoods, a lot of great old trees that really add to the character of the neighborhood. And I attended the event last year. It's a fantastic opportunity for all Clearwater citizens to get some really nice trees and to help us beautify our city.
Exactly. Build our canopy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That will move to item 5.1 on the agenda. Are there any amendments to the minutes of the Clearwater City Council meeting of April 4, 2024?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. This Time we'll move to item 6 on the agenda, the consent agenda. This time, is there anyone from the council or the public which would like to remove an item from the consent agenda?
Mayor, I have a request to remove item 6.7.
Any other requests? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
Yes, move to approve agenda item 6.1 through 6.9 excluding 6.7.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. This time we'll move to item 6.7 on the agenda.
Appoint 2 individuals to the Environmental Advisory Board. Jason Drizzy to fill an unexpired term through December 31st, 2025, and Michael Rubino to fill an unexpired term through October 31, 2025. Council members, during the work session, there was consensus among the council to appoint those 2 individuals in those respective terms, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Anyone from the public like to speak to this item 6.7?
Good evening to the council. My name is Gladys Andrews. I'm a resident of the Sand Key area, zip code 33767. I attended your work session on Monday and was disappointed on how it came out. And I'll say I was disappointed, not just because I was one of the 7 who did not get the appointment, but I'm concerned that the council did not look at the diversity of our community and therefore create a committee that is also diverse. You placed on that advisory board 2 people who, quote, their paperwork said they had some background, but what you failed to do was to cover my area, which is the Sand Key area. I think if we are to, or if you are to represent all of us, then your actions should reflect that. I don't think they did. It won't make a difference. You've already done what you're going to do. But I do want to publicly acknowledge Councilman Menino, who at least realized that we need to cover that zip code that you did not cover. I hope that these 2 experts are what we need, but moving forward, I would like to encourage you to make sure that when you create these boards and these committees, they look like the community of Clearwater, so that we can feel that you are representing us when you sit up there. I think that's all my notes said. Thank you. And again, Mr. Menino, thank you. Even though everybody voted in consensus, I do thank you for at least putting in that plug. Thank you. You want to ask me any questions? Thank you.
Any council discussion? Anyone else from the public wish to speak to item 6.7? Seeing none, any council?
Move to approve agenda item 6.7.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve agenda item 6.7. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. This time we'll move to item 7.1 on the agenda.
Approve the local housing assistance plan for fiscal year 2024 through 25 through fiscal year 2026, 2027. Authorize appropriate officials to execute the certification of Florida Housing Finance Corporation and adopt Resolution 24-08.
Thank you, Chuck Lane, Economic Development Housing Department. Because we receive State Housing Initiative Partnership Program funding, acronym of course is SHIP, we're required to submit a local housing assistance plan, or LHAP, every 3 years. The LHAP is our guiding document for our use of SHIP funds. The current LHAP expires on June 30th, and a new one will begin on July 1. The proposed LHAP has 8 strategies. 2 of them are new. 6 of them are continuing from the current LHAP with with changes to each of them. So all of the changes we're proposing are really primarily driven by changes in market conditions. We've seen a lot of changes over the last 3 years in market conditions. You can probably boil it down to the cost of construction and housing outpacing people's incomes. So I'll explain some of the key changes to the existing programs first. We've increased the maximum loan to a developer for acquisition and construction of a single-family home from $200,000 to $300,000, while also increasing their developer fee from 12% of construction cost to 15%. We've increased homebuyer purchase assistance loans to a maximum loan of $75,000. This equals the county maximum loan. Borrowers in the lower income brackets will have 25-year deferred loans. Loans to all other eligible buyers will be deferred for 5 years, and 50% of the loan will be deferred over the remaining 20 years. Our owner-occupied rehabilitation loan program will continue to provide up to $60,000 for eligible improvements. In addition, the new LHAP provides up to $15,000 for grant funding for ADA accessibility improvements for folks with special needs. Low-income borrowers will have a 20-year deferred loan. Others will repay 50% of the loan over 20 years. For multifamily housing, we work with developers. The maximum loan amount per unit for acquisition or new construction is being increased from $150,000 per unit to $200,000 per unit. Again, these are loans. For rehab of multifamily units, the maximum increases from $50,000 to $100,000 per unit. Our LHAP always has a disaster assistance strategy. If a disaster occurs, we'll likely get funding from the Florida Housing Finance Corporation to help repair damaged homes. Under the strategy, we will fund grants for home repairs up to $20,000. We certainly hope not to implement this program in the next fiscal year. So the two new strategies, one of them is we're proposing a demolition relocation construction program. We had this in our program years ago. In our rehab program, sometimes we come across a home that's just too far gone to repair it. So we're proposing to provide loans up to $200,000 to tear down a home that's in disrepair and build a new home on that site. And again, we'll have a combination of deferred and payment loans depending on the income levels. This also includes a grant of up to $25,000 for temporary relocation and storage fees. And lastly, we've added a rental assistance strategy. This is something we would do through a partner, a nonprofit organization. Eligible expenditures will be deposits, rent arrears, utilities, and up to 6 months of rental payments with a cumulative maximum benefit of $10,000 per person or per household. So once approved, we'll submit this plan to the state by May 2nd. That's the deadline that we have, and I'll take questions.
Any questions? Vice Mayor Albritton.
So Chuck, if somebody wanted to apply for this program, who do they contact or how they contact? Through email or phone number?
They can contact through email, through phone. Our phone numbers have just changed. I do not know the numbers off the top of my head because they are brand new. But they can contact by email. They can contact me, charles.lane@myclearwater.com, and I will get them pointed in the right direction.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Our website is a great resource as well for information, for contact information.
Mr. Mayor, move to approve agenda items. Sorry, go ahead.
Your desk. At this time, are there any citizens to be heard on this item? Okay.
And if I may, Mayor, because it is a resolution, we will typically read it by title.
Okay.
So with your permission, it will be resolution number 24-08, a resolution of the City of Clearwater, Florida, approving the local housing assistance plan as required by the State Housing Initiatives Partnership Program Act, subsections 420.907 through 420.9079 Florida statutes and Rule Chapter 67-37 Florida Administrative Code, authorizing and directing the mayor to execute any necessary documents and certifications needed by the state, authorizing the submission of the local housing assistance plan for review and approval by the Florida Housing Finance Corporation, providing an effective date.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Lane. Move to item 7.2 on the agenda.
Approve the annexation initial future land use map designation of residential low, RL, and initial zoning atlas designation of low medium density residential, LMDR district for 1485 Gross Circle Court and pass ordinances 9733-24, 9734-24, and 9735-24 on first reading.
Good evening, Gina Clayton, Planning and Development Director. This is a voluntary annexation request. This single-family home would like to hook up to sanitary sewer and receive solid waste service. We're recommending approval as the property is contiguous to city boundaries. There will be no adverse impacts on city services, and it would be consistent with the comprehensive plan and community development code.
Is there anyone from the public here that would like to speak regarding item 7.2 on the agenda? Seeing none, is there council discussion? Is there a motion?
Mayor,
Ordinances first.
because it is an
Oh, you need
ordinance,
to read it?
I will in fact read all three titles with your permission. It'll be ordinance number 9733-24 up first, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real property located on the south side of Grove Circle Court, approximately 210 feet west of North Highland Avenue, whose post office address is 1485 Grove Circle Court, Clearwater, Florida, 33755, into the corporate limits of the city, and redefining the boundary lines of the city to include said addition, providing an effective date. This next one is 9734-24, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain real property located on the south side of Grove Circle Court, approximately 210 feet west of North Highland Avenue, whose post office address is 1485 Grove Circle Court, Clearwater, Florida, 33755, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as residential low RL, providing an effective date. Finally, we have ordinance number 9735-24, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by zoning certain real property located on the south side of Grove Circle Court, approximately 210 feet west of North Highland Avenue, whose post office address is 1485 Grove Circle Court, Clearwater, Florida, 33755, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as low-medium density residential, LMDR, providing an effective date.
Making a motion to approve item 7.2.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve agenda item 7.2. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Item 7.3 on the agenda.
Approve the annexation initial future land use map designation of residential low, RL, and initial zoning atlas designation of low medium density residential, LMDR district for 3076 Grandview Avenue, and pass ordinances 9736-24, 9737-24, and 9738-24 on first reading.
This is another voluntary annexation request, another single-family home wanting to get sanitary sewer and solid waste service. The property is contiguous and meets all the requirements for annexation, and we're recommending approval.
Go ahead and read. Yeah.
Mayor, we have first up is ordinance number 9736-24, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real property located on the northwest corner of Grandview Avenue and North McMullen Booth Road, whose post office address is 3076 Grandview Avenue, Clearwater, Florida, 33759, into the corporate limits of the city and redefining the boundary lines of the city to include said addition, providing an effective date. Next up is ordinance number 9737-24, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain real property located on the northwest corner of Grandview Avenue and North McMullen Booth Road, whose post office address is 3076 Grandview Avenue, Clearwater, Florida, 33759, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as residential low RL, providing an effective date. Finally, we have ordinance number 9738-24, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by zoning certain real property located on the northwest corner of Grandview Avenue and North McMullen Booth Road, whose post office address is 3076 Grandview Avenue, Clearwater, Florida, 33759, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as low-medium density residential, LMDR, providing an effective date.
Are there any citizens that wish to speak to item 7.3 on the agenda? Seeing none, is there any council discussion?
Move to approve agenda item 7.3.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Item 7.4.
Approve the annexation initial future land use map designation of residential low, RL, and initial zoning atlas designation of low medium density residential, LMDR, district for 1410 Lime Street, together with the abutting right-of-way of Lime Street, and pass ordinances 9750-24, 9751-24, and 9752-24 on first reading.
Well, there's another annexation here. Single-family home, also seeking sanitary sewer and solid waste service. This one's a little different because staff is recommending that you also annex the abutting right-of-way in front of the property on Lime Street. Property is contiguous to city boundaries and meets all the requirements for annexation. Staff's recommending approval.
Mr. Margolis?
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 9750-24 is up first. An ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real property located on the north side of Lime Street, approximately 500 feet east of South Hillcrest Avenue, whose post office address is 1410 Lime Street, Clearwater, Florida, 33756, together with certain abutting right-of-way of Lime Street into the corporate limits of the city and redefining the boundary lines of the city to include said addition, providing an effective date. Next up is ordinance number 9751-24, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain real property located on the north side of Lime Street, approximately 500 feet east of South Hillcrest Avenue, whose post office address is 1410 Lime Street, Clearwater, Florida, 33756, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as residential low, RL, providing an effective date. Finally, we have ordinance number 9752-24, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by zoning certain real property located on the north side of Lime Street, approximately 500 feet east of South Hillcrest Avenue, whose post office address is 1410 Lime Street, Clearwater, Florida, 33756, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as low medium density residential, LMDR, providing an effective date.
Is there anyone here from the public that wishes to speak regarding item 7.4 on the agenda? Seeing none, any council discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve agenda item 7.4.
Second.
Moved and second to approve agenda item 7.4. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Move to item 7.5 on the agenda.
Appoint council members to regional and miscellaneous boards. Council members, at your work session, I have updated the agenda item to reflect the appointments that there was consensus among. But there was one item that still needs, that still has a vacancy, and I need somebody to serve on the audit committee. And that's very exciting. Don't all jump at once.
I have my fair share of excitement already, so I'm going to
Understood.
see if there are other council members.
I think I'm in the same boat.
I've got 6.
Mr. Mayor, can you describe for us the commitment and how often this board meets?
They don't meet very often, although they're getting ready to meet, and that was per the finance director's report at the pension trustees. So they meet as needed. It's not very often. If I
Needed
can sell
daily
it
is
any
different
better
than needed
than that, I
monthly.
don't know.
For the sake of efficiency, I'll take it and we can move on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
You're all welcome.
So then we're approving a list that's
Approving the list
as
as presented, and I can go over each of them if you'd like. Otherwise, what I would ask is approve it as presented, plus the amendment to appoint Mr. Menino to the audit committee.
Okay, Mr. Mayor. Move to approve agenda item 7.5 with the addition of Mr. Menino to the audit board.
Second.
Anyone from the public wish to speak to this agenda item? No? Any council discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. This time we'll move to item 8 on the agenda. Members of the public are invited to speak on any item that does not appear on today's agenda. Please step to the podium, state your name for the public record. You have 3 minutes to speak on a subject that is not on today's agenda. There shall be no dialogue between the person speaking from the podium and the city council until the speaker has completed his or her comments. This time, are there any citizens who would like to be heard tonight?
Hello again. I'm here to talk about trees. Maybe you're all getting tired of seeing my face, but if nothing else, I continue to talk about trees so that this important issue doesn't fall to the back of our collective minds. You see, trees are a rare thing. They add unprecedented beauty to our communities. Unlike built things, they are not easily replaced when cut down. And they take a very long time to grow, sometimes a whole human lifetime to reach maturity. Unfortunately, the place where we often want to plant trees alongside our boulevards are also a very convenient place to put utility poles. Until recently, Duke Energy chose to coexist with trees and opted to trim them instead of completely cutting them down. But this is now changing. Some of the grandest shade canopies in our community are a target to be cut down. You look at these places and you think to yourself, this is safe. There's no way anybody would cut something down so magnificent. Wrong. They would and they will. Duke doesn't see beauty, they don't see communities. They see miles and miles of copper, and they see trees as giant weeds, nothing more. I'll list a few myths I've recently heard, many of which have come from Duke representatives that attempt to justify the clear cutting of our urban forest. If we don't remove the trees, we'll have to raise utility rates. That's false. Will we see lower rates if they continue with the removal? I doubt it. Duke is being proactive. False. Power outages are rarely caused by whole trees falling. If it's tree related, it's a branch that Duke failed to properly trim. Next time you see a power outage, ask Duke why they haven't done the right thing and undergrounded their lines. Number 3, there's nothing that we can do. That's also false. You can talk to Duke, you can ask them to change their policies. You can call the higher ups and demand alignment with the tree inventory program. You can call the Public Service Commission and ask them to do something. While it's true that Duke has legal authority to cut the trees, it is not true that they have to. There is another way. Thank you for your time.
Next.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Harding of 2165 Briarway Drive in Clearwater, and I also am here to talk about the trees, to talk about Duke Energy's practice of removing them. I think most of you have already heard from either me or one of my neighbors about this issue, but it's affecting more than just us. So over the weekend, I did some research, and I found that Duke Energy has been destroying the beauty of communities and neighborhoods all over the country for some time now. There are so many examples, but I just wrote down a few. In 2013 in Asheville, North Carolina, they butchered the trees of a man named Mark Greer. In 2015 in Raleigh, North Carolina, they cut down a 100-year-old tree that used to be a neighborhood landmark, and they left a yard full of huge limbs. One of them was 12 feet long for the homeowner, Shelley Bond, to dispose of herself. In 2017 in Westchester, Ohio, they cut down the beautiful greenery in the backyard of Melanie Staubitz against her will. In 2017, there was a big legal battle because they wanted to cut down a willow tree in the front yard of John Kane. In 2022 in Lake Wiley, South Carolina, there was a man named Jim Oliver, and he owned quite a bit of property. And Duke Energy told him that they were going to remove 5 of his trees, and he was fine with that. And he came home to find instead that they had removed hundreds of his trees. So my neighbors and I are quite upset about this because now our neighborhood is on their chopping block, and we just don't understand why. Duke Energy has always been able to maintain their easement in the past by trimming, and we just want them to continue to do that. So I've reached out to so many different people, and I keep being told that there isn't much that anyone can do to help us, to help all of us who are being bullied by Duke Energy. But I just keep thinking that there has to be something that somebody can do. It's hard for me to believe that a single company has that much power to just do whatever they want to do without regard to how it impacts people. So if there's anything that you think of that you can do to help us, we would really appreciate it. And I have a little bit of time left, so I just want to show you how it's affecting me personally. Our backyard, where they're wanting to cut down 4 of our trees, and it's our home, and we spend a lot of time back there. And so these are just a few pictures on there. You can see this is a picture of my husband and me. dancing under our trees in our backyard. This is a picture of my family on some holiday, having a cookout back there. This is a picture of my little nephew playing under the shade of the trees. And this is a picture of him swinging from the trees. And if they cut down our trees, it's just going to be too hot, and we're not going to have any use of our backyard. So please help us if you can. Thank you.
If you would just, if you would just make sure you fill out a comment card. We want to make sure too that if one of the council members wants to follow up with you afterwards, we have your contact information. Yeah, thanks.
Hi, thank you for hearing us this evening. My name is Julie Webster. My husband and I live in Clearwater on Allard Drive. Both retired teachers from Massachusetts, and we're transplant, been here for 8 years, and we love it. It is time we started conserving our land, beautifying our neighborhoods, rather than reconfiguring the terrain in order to fit our needs. That thinking can only lead to destruction of the natural beauty of Florida and beyond. Duke Energy's new policy, which they claim is not new, to remove trees rather than trim them is not only irresponsible for the environment, but for many other reasons as well. The trees provide shade, which lower energy costs. They are home to a variety of wildlife. Their deep root system protects the soil from erosion, which helps minimize flooding during storms. Power outages during typical Florida storms are not only due to fallen limbs and downed trees, but to the fact that Duke Energy has failed to bury their lines and bring their corporation into the 21st century. Let's hold them partially responsible for this and give consideration to those whose homes will be directly affected by tree removal. The act of tree removal is drastic and permanent solution that cannot be undone. It is reckless and counterproductive as we fight climate change. Before we devastate our communities, there needs to be a serious discussion between Duke Energy, the leadership of Pinellas County, and homeowners, which are also customers of Duke Energy. We need to look into the future and recognize our responsibility now. Our goal is to find a middle ground with Duke Energy that reflects the city of Clearwater's motto, bright and beautiful bay to beach. And save our trees, preserve the land and wildlife that has been left to us, and leave it better than we found it for the future. Thank you very much.
Hello. I want to thank you, Mayor Rector, for coming out to our neighborhood, and we know that you care about the trees. That's why we're here. I think all of you actually do care about trees, so that is huge, and your whole Arbor Day thing was amazing. So I'm not here to sell you on the trees. You love trees, so do we. I think there's discrepancies with Duke Energy's paperwork they're giving us about this 1956 easement that they bought for $1. And now they're 68 years later starting to enforce it. Well, the paperwork I got when I bought my house shows that I've got a 30-foot easement south of the lines, as opposed to their 50-foot, 25-foot north, and 25-foot south of the lines. So I think they're lying to us in the first place, trying to, and most people just let them do what they do and come in and cut the trees. But one of the reasons why I bought my house was because of those trees. I mean, we've got a nice big backyard, and we spent a lot of time. That was the guy dancing with that beautiful girl over there. So we love our backyard. We camp out there with our nephew, and that's like our second home is outside of our home. So when they lose these trees,
we're gonna lose all the shade from the trees that allow us to, have our very affordable $400 a month energy payments that we have now. That's gonna go up even higher once we get, all the sun from, and I think that's also a problem. It's a little conflict of interest with Duke Energy, clear cutting our trees, and now all of our energy costs go up, and we gotta pay that to Duke. Are they gonna give us free solar panels and battery systems so we can offset that costs? We're not trying to, keep our trees and screw everybody else who has, loses power in a hurricane. We've never lost, but we lost power one time with Irma when she came through. 4 days we lost power, but it wasn't because of our trees. It was something else down the line caused those. But we just need to know that, they can keep cutting those trees as opposed to clear cutting them. Trim them and maintain them, and I even do mine myself. Our trees in our backyard are not even tall enough to reach those high transmission lines, which are the ones that they're talking about, not the distribution lines, which are the lower ones. So we know you guys care about trees. We just want to, have them come to us and say, we absolutely need to, and these are the reasons why, but they're not giving us any reasons. What we're hearing from the tree trimmers are that it's because of costs. Once they remove the trees, they don't have to send crews out to keep cutting them. So that's not good enough for me. I pay property taxes on the house that I bought in '95, and I love that house, and I don't want to have to sell it in this economy and try and find another house. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Patricia Kirby, 1111 Spencer Avenue, Clearwater, Florida. I want to do a nod to Governor Bob Graham, who passed away this week, who was an outstanding advocate for the environment and a friend of mine, and I shared office space with him a long time ago, back when I was in college. So good man. We need more like him. We need more statespeople who support the environment and who are willing to go out on a limb and do something different in order to help the environment. So the City of Clearwater has a franchise agreement with Duke Energy. Does this franchise agreement include harassment of the citizens of Clearwater, lying to the citizens of Clearwater, destroying trees on private property, because they've made that mistake a few times where it wasn't on the easement, it was actually on private property, because the people who are cutting them don't speak English often, nothing against that, but it's a problem. Destroying city property such as sidewalks while they're cutting down the trees, dramatically raising the monthly electricity bill for individual homeowners. Last year, Denise Budakavoli, whose trees the city accidentally, intentionally, but accidentally cut down, her electric bill went up $200 a month at a time when she had gas put in, so the only thing really running off of electricity was air conditioning, and it was heat alone. So lowering property values for Clearwater homeowners. Were the homeowners notified that those trees were going to be cut down at some point in time? That's not right. That isn't okay. Has the city reached out to any other cities in Pinellas County to ask what they're doing to help against Duke? I feel like if you act as a unified front, and by the way, when I called all the cities last year, I called all 23 cities during the tree issues last year, and every one of them, I'm sorry to say this, they said Clearwater is not a team player. Now, I remember the day I met you, and you said you want to bring in people being a team player. So I'm holding you accountable to that. Work with the other cities. I feel like if you act as a unified front, you can really make a change here. But it's got to be all of them. It's got to be everybody coming together, all the ones who are affected. Obviously, the beaches don't care. No offense to the beaches. So lastly, I contacted Charlotte, North Carolina, where Duke is located, their headquarters. They have a ruling heritage trees in Charlotte are protected to a small degree and cannot be removed by anyone, including Duke Energy, without a permit and documentation ahead of time. So I feel like there's some leeway here. There's some things we can do to ask and demand a location, a species, a size, a number of these trees, and also really work to find some solutions. Lastly, I really like to pray. I pray all the time. I'm an ordained minister, not like with a church, but just on my own. I was praying, driving up to deliver some of my tree flyers, and on the way there, I was saying, I don't want another fight like last year. I don't want another tree fight. I'm tired of fighting these things. And I closed my eyes, and as God is my witness, I opened my eyes, of course at a stoplight, and the license plate in front of me of the car said this: Fight on. Not a coincidence.
Next.
Hi, start the same way I always start. Tony from 520, 522, and 528 Cleveland Street. I'm here, first of all, I'm here all the time, as you guys know, and I love to see the passion of the community with the trees and the issues that they have. And I believe it's more than just trees for them. It's something to do with, like the lady showed the picture. It's a human issue. It's something that we grow with, and we see our children grow up. And I know I want my child to grow up in a community where the aesthetics and the appreciation for nature is valid. It's valid and robust and beautiful. So it's a beautiful thing seeing not only God mentioned, but family and our community being brought together in such a manner. But I'm here to talk about the 500 block and what we are doing to try to make a difference there. I've put in my love, my heart, sweat, money, fortune, everything into that block, and I'm happy to see that 530 is going to be occupied by a great man who's excited to be part of the community. And I want you guys to know that anyone who comes into the 500 block or any downtown thing, I will do the best to help. And my institution is doing that. Like I spoke here prior to that, we installed the sprinkler system, not only for us, but so that every single tenant in the 500 block can tap into. Because I believe in this community and I want it to grow. I want us to stand together, like you mentioned, and like the lady before me mentioned, as a team, as a unified front, to bring the best to our community, where I want to grow my family, and I know people here passionately want to do the same. So I ask of you guys to have policies like these, like you see up there, that don't really, it's a violation I got for a lack of signage, for inappropriate signage and a A-frame that I have outside. We need to make the 500 block look alive. And with these kind of violations that I'm not only getting, but people are scared to get, it makes our block look dead. I spent money now opening it up at 12 o'clock to try to make it look more alive, but things like this, me not being allowed to have an open sign outside or specials on an A-frame tent while these letters being sent to my landlord is a travesty. It's something that we want to look alive, and I don't know if there's an agenda to push it to look dead, but that is not conducive to growth or to the beauty of the downtown. That being said, I just want everyone to start to see things and work together to make it look beautiful and to make it look alive. And things like this deters people. And I know, speaking with the other business owners, they feel the same way, especially in the 500 block. I ask all these things always humbly and with regard of our community. Thank you, guys.
Before I start, which projector is the one on the internet? This one?
Yeah.
This one, or that one?
Well, that broadcasts.
This broadcast. Is that one on the internet, or is that one?
They're
on
all-
the internet? And who's in charge of the internet? Who? Al Gore. I just want to get it straight.
I'm trying to, we got other folks here that want to speak.
Hi, I'm Blaine Enderle. That's Blaine with no E. Everybody here knows me, except for the new people, and you will, trust me. I sent you the one on the windows of the doors. So, it's in your hand, bro. Everything's in your hand. You're a police chief. If you can't see the problem, it's no problem to me then, because you got more safety in your DNA than I got in mine. I'm here to talk about Drew Street. Everybody says Drew Street has a speeding problem. How many times have we heard that in the last 2 years? Let's dive into the details. These are the people that have the ability for radar, for the police department. Here are all the tickets on Drew Street for the last 2 years. Now, Ms. Poirier, and I butcher your name, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And please forgive my spelling too. I hate spelling. I love to write, I hate to spell. But you could make these codes so we know how many times they run a red light versus a speeding ticket. You can make these codes so how many times they pull people over for certain things. Because the police department doesn't want you analyzing them. Ever. So, when you take the people that can write the tickets and put it over top of all the tickets, and they did a good job. The police department did a great job of ticketing Drew Street. God bless them. God bless you guys. But guess how many tickets there was in the last 2 years? 1. And I told Mr. Slaughter there wouldn't be any. I was wrong. 1 ticket, speeding ticket, speed. We're only talking speed, because I know in one of your boards, Mr. Albright, you said, hey, I want to get the facts of how many accidents, how many this, how many that. I don't care about that. I only care about, is the police department in the last 2 years enforcing the speeding laws on Drew Street between King and the Sound? That's all I care about. 1. So if you, Ms. Poirier, don't direct the chief of police to enforce the speeding limit, it's not going to happen. We know they don't speed. We race this town. I got a Camaro. I know that if I go just 9 miles an hour over, I'm never going to get a ticket. Now I know I can go more. Now I have hundreds of things to talk to you about, but I'm out of time, so thank you.
Good evening, council. My name is Andre Johnson, born and raised here. A lot of new faces, but I seen you in the ballots. I did vote. See my team, I did vote for, I guess, some moment didn't make it. But I want to proceed on. I'm going to start off with under 42 U.S.C. Section 1983, you may sue state and local officials for deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured by the Constitution and federal laws. 18 U.S.C. Section 242, the provision makes it a crime for someone acting under the color of law to deprive any person of the right or privilege protected by the constitutional laws of the United States. Deprivation of rights under the color of law is a federal crime charge that is sometimes used against the police or other law enforcement officers when they allegedly use their power to violate any person's right under the United States Constitution. What violates procedural due process? 2 types of due processes. But we're just talking about procedural due process. Governmental actors violate due process when they frustrate the fairness of proceedings, such as when prosecutors fail to disclose evidence to a criminal defendant that suggests that they may be innocent of a crime, or when a judge is biased to a criminal defendant or to a party in a civil action. Now, in civil case Andre Johnson versus Jared Copeland and Stephen Wanos, along with civil case Andre Johnson versus City of Clearwater, Minnesota Corporation, both cases were conducted at the same time, on the same day. This unconstitutional dual Zoom hearing for both civil cases is due process violation. Civil case Andre Johnson versus David Margolis and Michael Fiono also are conducted on the Zoom conducted hearing without the knowledge or consent of a Zoom hearing by me conducted on March 13, 2024, which violated the Florida Supreme Court's amended rule 2.530. Now, in that, the Florida Supreme Court has terminated all temporary COVID-19 procedures and rules, AOSC 222-51, and has amended Rule of General Practice and Judicial Administration 2.530 to set forth the circumstances under the remote hearings by the names followed. Now, during this time, I have encountered more unconstitutional violation situations with the City of Clearwater officers Seth Stiers, Andrew Billups, and James Copeland as a clear response of retaliation due to my civil claims against the parties mentioned. Now, because of these violations and my lack of trust in the lower tribunal courts, I have to transfer these claims to the U.S. District Court to have United States courts basically discuss these violations that I brought before this council over the time. Now, also, we have an issue dealing with Officer Justin Boyes of the community. I'm on behalf of the Lake Bellevue and the Bel Air community as a civil rights advocate, witnessing an officer in his automatic self-accident. He committed the accident and conducted his own investigation. Now, this is liability to the city council because we are talking about workers' comp, all types of things. Excuse me. We're wondering if maybe if this officer followed through with the supervisor and got a drug and alcohol test and also provided us information. And also another entity should have investigated that arrest involving officer, whether it was the sheriff's department or the state trooper's office.
Need
So
to
I'm
be fair,
hoping that
need to be
council.
fair to everybody else, and everybody else only gets 3 minutes, so.
Yeah, I
be
understand that,
consistent.
sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you. God bless you. But also, the city wants to know about those situations, those violations of rules and regulations, sir. So I will see you in the United States District Court. Thank you. God bless you all.
Other citizens to be heard.
I'm Mr. Haluba. The First Amendment must be respected and defended, and these rights should not be abridged in any way, shape, or form. This is part of the ONC's Rule 15. This is an abridgment of civil rights. Rule 15 needs to be struck down and abolished. Now, it would appear that Ms. Poirier has failed to meet her residency requirement deadline stated in her employee contract. Perhaps now would be a good time to cut her loose. Now, all public officials must be responsive to citizen inquiries and comply with Florida open records laws. And I trust that all of you will endeavor to do that. Now, again tonight, we saw millions of dollars spent, and I understand there's been some progress made in the Save the Arches movement, but please appropriate the relatively small sum of money needed to save and preserve these historic arches at Drew and Baker Streets. Earlier this month, another Clearwater police employee resigned after inappropriate contact with a subordinate. Also, there was a Detective Kakalo, probably mispronouncing that, received a letter of reprimand. The letter addressed the use of Clearwater system to look up vehicle tag information without authorization or probable cause. This information was then disseminated to certain citizens. It's just two more recent examples of the poorly managed Clearwater police under the irritable Eric Gandy. It's an embarrassment to the entire city. It points again to the fact that Clearwater police actually cannot be trusted.
Are there any other citizens to be heard?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I rise today to publicly recognize the Sugar Sand Festival team for a great city experience. I was a volunteer for a couple of shifts, and it was wonderful to interact with so many visitors within our #1 tourist industry. And I'd like to especially thank the council for helping with the Jolly Trolley from the mainland to solve the parking and the congestion experience out there. So, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, city staff. My name is Patrick Raftery. I'm a resident of Clearwater in the countryside area. Traditionally, I like to finish up my talks on a positive note, so I'm going to do that again tonight. First of all, I'd like to comment briefly on an item that's been approved by consent, which I thoroughly agreed with, and that was the appointment of Mr. Michael Mastrisario to the Community Development Board, an item that was brought up at your work session by Council Member Menino to consider an individual, Bill Johnson was another one, that may not meet all those specific requirements of members of the CDB. And in that particular case, the commission, the council agreed with him and appointed Michael Mastrisario to that board. I think that's an outstanding step for a diverse opinion that there's only one vote on that particular council. So I thank you, Council Member Menino, for doing that. What I really wanted to talk about is the extremely exciting first Downtown Development Board meeting that I listened to on the 15th of April under the newly reconstituted DDB, which includes you 5 council members, plus 2 elected members from the previous Downtown Development Board, I believe. I was excited myself, and I have no business interest in downtown Clearwater at all, but it was nice to see the collaboration that was being displayed by that new board, by the city staff that was working with them, as well as the CRA director. At that particular meeting, there were some rule changes discussed by all the council members. Councilmember Cotton suggested that some restrictions be removed relative to the dollar amounts, but the language be kept there, which gave us the flexibility to do things in the future, an excellent idea which the council adopted. In addition to that, the council has agreed to review previous grants that were given by the previous Downtown Development Board at their last meeting prior to the departure, just to make sure everything is vetted properly and those monies were properly spent. I think that is an excellent demonstration of the accountability that the new Downtown Development Board is going to apply. I would like to say that the word needs to get out that there is this new constituted Downtown Development Board, and that business people like Tony and new people that are coming in should take advantage of the business assistance grants, as well as those people that would like to get event grants. I think if they get more publicity about what they can get, you might see more people coming to the Downtown Development Board meetings and requesting those things. I've attended many of those meetings, and then I stopped because they became quite dull, not much progress. I intend to resume my attendance and look forward to the progress. I would also like to add that I saw at that meeting that you've engaged with the outstanding legal firm of David Margolis and the Clearwater City Attorney Office to provide your legal support. That's an excellent move as well. So that first meeting has established some new optimism for development of downtown, and I look forward to the progress that you're going to make. Thank you very much.
Are there any other citizens to be heard tonight on items that are not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to item 9 on the agenda, city manager reports.
North Beach update.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Marcus Williamson, Public Works Director. Had a few visuals for us today as we get into some conversations and just wanted to highlight. So as we talk through and we make some reference to laterals, and just wanted to be able to point out in our storm sewer system, as you see, a lot of our pipes are just individual pipes that will come out. As we talk to the Weir location, it's at the corner of Bruce and Bay Esplanade, and we'll get some updates on what's going on there. Also wanted to highlight, I know there's been a bunch of residents have been asking various questions while we're out and about, and thought maybe some graphics might kind of help explain a few things that can go on. So the first graphic up top where you see the sunny day flooding, without what we'll get into with the tidal valves, this is instances where the water will get up high enough that it will back up into a storm sewer and actually start to flood the streets. We'll get into other conditions, and there was some of that this last week as we were getting in where water was backing up. We had the high tide, and our water actually did not discharge out of the pipes because the pressure from the water that was up high enough in the seawall would not let that vacate out. And then just one thing that's important, even as we go through all of our efforts, once you get to a point where the seawalls are overtopped, the whole sewer, storm sewer system is inundated. There's nothing you can do. It's overwhelmed everything, and the area is gonna flood. So last year we did have that happen twice, and that just puts a lot more water out. Then our goal is to recover as quickly as possible as that water starts to drop back down. So we had gone to meet with Fort Lauderdale. They obviously had a 26-inch rain event this last week. So we were meeting with them, trying to get some of the lessons learned they had, as well as they've gone through a series of tidal valve installations. So they actually had this graphic, which kind of helps explain a little bit with the tidal valves. So the whole purpose is we go to put the tidal valves in. Without them, the water can just back up. The valves will go in. We'll put some in by the inlets, some out by the seawall. Just depends on the location. But it blocks that water from backing up into the system. So when we make reference to the tidal valves, it's just a visualization of what's occurring there. So this last week, when we did have the rain events, there is the weir that I showed in the location before. The water actually backflowed in, so that weir is actually slightly lower than the seawall. So you can see how it kind of drops down in there. So what happened was we had put a temporary, secured it. The wave action was pulling that up. It was coming in through it, and it was backflowing in. So this week we've gone in and we've now filled that weir in. So that's it, full of concrete. So the goal will be stop that as being a source coming through. We'll let the concrete cure, and then we'll go back in and kind of backfill the area. But we did do some of that this week. We had been monitoring that location, just we didn't have good records on why that was installed. So we've been trying to watch to make sure if it was installed for something we couldn't readily see the reason for it. So we did get that installed, and like I said, we'll go back in, we'll regrade. We're also gonna do some curb work in there, a little bit of sloping. Public Utilities has a couple of locations where they've got their auto flushers that will, they use to ensure that the chlorination is kept up through everyone's pipes. So they discharged at a couple locations. That is one of the locations. So we think that could have been a reason that the weir was originally installed out there, was to let that water flow out. But we're working with Public Utilities. We're going to actually get it dechlorinated and get it right into the storm system so that it's not going out into the street. So we're working on all of that, and hopefully the next month or two we'll get that done. That location is also one of the permanent lift station locations. So ultimately, one of our pump lift stations will go out there, and then we'll have 8 other locations in addition to the one permanent one that's already out there. With that, again, we had met with the Fort Lauderdale folks. They had some interesting information. They've gone through a couple of different manufacturer types with tidal valves. And we talked through some of that, so we'll probably investigate. They actually had the red valve system that we've currently got out there. They've gone to a different Waypro valve, so we're going to go look into that just a little bit more. They've had better luck with that manufacturer. We're continuing to meet with Nelson Construction, who had installed our tidal valves. There's corrective actions that they've got to do. That is part of why we're seeing them not holding the water the way that they should. Some of them are twisted a little bit sideways. Some of them don't have good seals, so they're letting the water infiltrate. So again, we're working with them to get all of that corrected, and we're just waiting on their corrective action plan and timeline. So with that, I'll pause if there's any questions.
Vice Mayor Albritton?
Not really a question, but a comment. You know, this is real important that you come and describe this at our council meetings, because we get a lot of input from people there that really wonder what's going on. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and I think that was a very good presentation you did about what the city's doing. And, you know, we have council meetings every other week. I think it would be good to keep that update going and let everybody know what is really going on out there. So thank you.
Will do, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. City Manager, anything else?
Just, Mayor and Council, if you would permit me just a quick comment. Tony's observations about the sign code, the violation, I will look into that, but I just want to make sure that you're aware that we allow sandwich board signs. We have for many years. When we adopted that program, there was a lot of, really some community involvement with that. In fact, there was a commitment on the part of the chamber locally to assist us in the compliance effort. Well, I'll let you guess as to how that turned out, probably as one would expect. But one of the other considerations, and there were a few, primarily insurance, because at the end of the day, it is our right-of-way, it's our public space. And there was also a requirement to get an annual permit for it. Now, I think the director at the time, that was me, probably didn't want to get an annual permit simply because I knew people wouldn't do it. And that's not a criticism, that's just a reality. You know, for most business people working on the downtown, you know, I mean, coming in and getting a sidewalk permit once a year, who's going to think of that? I wouldn't, and I wouldn't necessarily, I don't blame anybody else for that. So I think probably what is happening, staff is trying to get, the last thing that's I'll say about that is that we didn't, it was very intentional on part of the council and even the business community at the time. They did not want to be an aesthetic detraction to the downtown. So the white plastic, you know, wet paint signs and the kind of stuff you see in industrial applications was not acceptable from either the business community or the city standpoint in terms of the aesthetic. So for that reason, there are some design guidelines on sidewalk cafe signs, sandwich board signs, as well as some placement limitations because it is public right-of-way, and there is the requirement for an annual permit for it. So they are allowed. It's probably one of those things that has impacted Tony. I'll find out what that is. We'll certainly help him get in compliance. But I wanted to make sure that you are aware that within certain guidelines, the city does support, approve, and allow sandwich board signs. So, and we'll work with Tony on sorting that issue out.
Okay. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. That moved to item 11 on the agenda, city attorney reports.
Thank you, Mayor. It is good to see people still in the audience. I've always believed that city attorney reports is the most exciting part of any council meeting. So I'm encouraged by that. I would like to see that more often. But no, all joking aside, while I don't have anything specific at this moment, I could certainly comment on probably a number of things we heard this evening if there was any interest in the council. But other than that, I have nothing specific.
Okay, that will move to item 12 on the agenda, closing comments by council members.
I have
Ms.
nothing.
Cotton, Shada.
Yes, so last week was a feast for the senses in Clearwater, and it was brimming with activity, and I enjoyed every minute of it. So many things to mention, but the Sugar Sand Festival, Market Marie, ukulele event, the charity softball challenge played by the Clearwater First Responders. I thoroughly enjoyed all of them. I especially enjoyed, like the mayor, the Purina Incredible Dog Challenge. I really enjoyed meeting all the contestants from not only all over the United States, but also Canada. I was especially proud when speaking to the organizers who were so impressed with our park that they reconfigured their whole bleachers the way they used to do it so that they can see the view. And they were so enthusiastic, so I was very excited. I also got to meet one of my favorite pups, which was Ripples. He won a perfect score for agility, so I was very excited about that. But more importantly, I think it's important to really focus on the staff, because this was clearly a win. According to my understanding, the discussion started years before Imagine Clearwater was a reality, and that's why this event happened. And so that kind of hard work and assertiveness and foresight is something that I'm very thankful for the staff for. And last but not least, I am a board member of the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council, and we are hosting in Clearwater Beach the Resiliency Summit in May. Part of this summit includes their 30th annual Future of the Region Awards, and I'm very excited to announce that Coachman Park and Imagine Clearwater is being recognized and considered for the Built Environment Award. So stay tuned for that.
Thank you. Councilmember Menino,
That's it.
Vice Mayor Albritton.
Okay, I got a couple of things here, and I'll try to be quick about it. I want to tell you that on April 16th, I was asked to come doing the ribbon cutting at Clearwater High School for the sophomore trade fair that they have, and I said, yeah, sure, because I was a graduate of Clearwater High School, and I was kind of proud to go back and do that for them. I was blown away. These kids put on, it's students display products that they invent, and then they show their marketing plan on how they're going to market it and then how they're going to manufacture it. And they had some really great ideas. The whole gym was filled with all these displays, like a science fair kind of thing. But the kids were really, I mean, I went and looked at all of them and I asked them, how are you marketing this? Well, it's a lot easier today with social media than it was when I was there, but their products were very, very good products, and I wish them the best of luck. I think it's a great venture into capitalism, and I think they get a good grasp of it. I was going to go through the Ford Pinellas board meeting summary. I'll kind of truncate that for us because it was rather lengthy, but the board approved a modification to the Transportation Improvement Program, which is called the TIP, and amendments to the Unified Work Program. The amendments concern de-obligating $730,000 in funds that the MPO anticipates not using for the remainder of the two-year period ending June 30th, 2024. So what that does by doing that, de-obligating those for projects that didn't get started, they can use them for other projects, and there's a bunch of them. So that was important to do that. The Fort Pinellas staff also presented the preliminary fiscal year 25 PPC, which is the Pinellas Planning Council budget. And we had basically a flat budget this year. Everything was good. And we actually reduced expenses by 3 to 5%, which was good. So the only other thing that I think might be interesting to the board up here is the Fort Pinellas apportionment plan has been transmitted to the governor's office. Fort Pinellas is made up, the board members are made up of elected officials from all the different municipalities in Pinellas County. And some of the smaller municipalities, you'll have like Tarpon and some of the smaller ones, one person represents maybe 3 different municipalities. Clearwater, looking at the population of all the different cities and municipalities, Clearwater really came up in how many people we have in Clearwater. So Clearwater is going to have 2 representatives. I'm one of them, and because we're actually 3rd, Pinellas County 1st, City of St. Pete 2nd, and Clearwater's the 3rd biggest in the county, we're going to get 2 representatives. So that's something I brought up last time, that, you know, we're going to be putting out these things for us to extra committees. That will probably be coming, and they think probably this summer that we'll go ahead and have to talk about that. But it's interesting, it's moving along. I think the governor will approve it, and then we'll see, you know, we'll put it out there and see who wants to join me. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. With that, we'll move to Mayor's closing comments, and I just wanted to use tonight as an opportunity just to thank a number of people that are making Clearwater better by being willing to collaborate with others and work together with folks not just inside our community, but outside our community. I know that several of the council members have had meetings and involvement that Vice Mayor Albritton just talked about on Forward Pinellas. It involves us reaching out beyond Clearwater to try to make great things happen for Clearwater. And so I've had the pleasure over the last 2 weeks of meeting with mayors of regional municipalities and different organizations and really feel a sense of excitement and enthusiasm and optimism for Clearwater and what they think Clearwater can do and become, and how they want to help us become that city that we all want it to be. So I thank the council tonight for, you know, agreeing to serve on these boards, because it's critically important that we all get involved and we all reach out and we all build these partnerships that help us make Clearwater better. And I wanted to not talk on and on and on about the incredible dog challenge which we had last Saturday. Obviously, I enjoyed it because I think I was scheduled to be there for 45 minutes to do the opening, and I stayed for 4 hours. So I loved that event. But I'll tell you, one of the things that felt the best to me about that event was the compliments that our Parks and Recreation staff got from television production camera people from all over the country on the quality of our park, even from the competitors down to how the quality of our turf and how fantastic that was for that national competition. That made me feel great to know my team members in the Parks and Recreation team are performing at such a high level that they're getting noticed by these folks who, because of the television industry, have very high standards of quality. And seeing our team members succeed, helping Clearwater succeed, that felt really good to me. And then Sugar Sand Festival was great throughout, but I went out there Sunday night for the closing night, and they had a great, fantastic Latin band, and somehow they figured out how to put a dance floor on the sand next to Pier 60, and that dance floor was full. The entire 3.5, 4 hours of the concert, full, through the fireworks, people dancing throughout the whole thing. And for me, it was great to see our Parks and Recreation team, but just our city, Lisa Chandler and the great folks over there at Sugar Sand, pull together our Hispanic community and give them a place to celebrate their own heritage and their own style of music that they enjoy. And a great creative way to bring our community together in that regard. So the dog event and the Pier 60, the Sugar Sand event, for me, that was a lot about creativity too. That us taking the blinders off of what we can do throughout Clearwater, not just on the beach, not just in Coachman Park. There are all kinds of unique opportunities that we want to bring to Clearwater. And I'm very encouraged just over the last week over how we've seen that happen. And then I also wanted to thank tonight, not just our police, but our lifeguards, our first responders on a very successful spring break. I sit on the Tourist Development Council now, and the numbers were, the usual outstanding numbers that we have in every spring break. The traffic through Tampa International was considerable. And so we had a high volume like we always have for spring break. And we just had such a successful spring break in that there were not any, thankfully this year, there were not any major news incidents that happened during our spring break out there on the beaches. And that's a testament to the hard work and planning that not just our police and first responders put in, but all of our city departments play a role in making that successful. Spring break is very important, not just to our local economy, to our citizens, because the strength of our tourism community here helps helps us keep taxes low and helps us do a lot of great things with our budget for all citizens in Clearwater throughout the year. So I want to thank our city employees for a successful spring break. And the last thing was that I attended a meeting yesterday at St. Petersburg College, Clearwater campus. They've started a community ambassadors program, which this prior city council funded to get it started. And so they had the collaborative labs came and did a brainstorming session from folks throughout Clearwater. It was a very diverse range of folks throughout Clearwater. Pinellas County Schools were there. And the goal was to talk about how we can better engage young people and students in occupations and work careers here in Clearwater, and try to engage them in things that they might not think about unless they experience those jobs or opportunities. And once they have exposure to them, then hey, this is something I might want to do for a long-term period of time. But just the meeting itself, just the ideas that got thrown out in the 45 minutes we were there actually talking was just amazing to me, and really gave me a lot of enthusiasm and hope for this city, in that that's just one example of the way we can really build some great and do some great things when we pull together. When we understand that the best ideas can come from anywhere and anyone, regardless of age or experience or background. Sometimes the freshest minds are the most creative minds. And so that one example, just the way our community pulled together the other day, I guess it was yesterday at SBC, was really encouraging to me. And I hope we can continue to support more of that here in Clearwater as we go forward. So with that, we will adjourn the meeting of the Clearwater City Council.